just did her first exclusive interview to tell us that, she desperately needed to fake her daughter's test results in order to get in college. Okay? This is her first interview. Take a look.
I think what you're asking is, why did I do it? It seemed like, and I know this seems crazy at the time, that was my only option to give my daughter a future.
Oh, now you know how black people feel and brown people feel. Our only option are to commit crimes in order to sacrifice ourselves for our kids, okay?
The game is rigged.
Based liberal.
I know what you're saying. Spade, you're on the left. Everybody has an equal chance. Pull yourselves up by your bootstrap, yada, yada, yada. The game is rigged. It doesn't really matter what side of the political spectrum you're on. Certain people are winners. Certain people are losers. Those who have money and a family name, not only are they winners, but they can navigate the waters better and be able to cheat to win. You think Felicity Huffman's daughter, who was the subject of Felicity faking test scores to get her daughter in, you think her daughter has been penalized? No, her daughter has not. Her daughter still was able to go to a good school, still has a good future. They still have money. They still have access to resources because the game is rigged. Now, you might be asking, okay, if the game is rigged, then why play? Well, you have no choice but to play. No matter where you go, people in power are in power, and they're going to rig the game in favor of people like themselves and those who they want to win. And the government also picks winners and losers. Now, I know what you're saying. That can't be. I know this and that. And so I had an interesting discussion as far as that, because just like with Felicity Huffman and people like her, who try to game the system, cheat the system. They know this, the whole thing is rigged. What happens to those who can't afford a lawyer, can't afford to get out of jail, can't afford to get past the court system? What happens to those that serve time? Well, they serve their time. They pay their debt to society. Now, you might say, well, that's a good thing. But here's the full conversation when it comes to second chances for offenders.
Pays to win, still loses.
Those that do their time, when they get out, they have a jacket. Whenever they go to get a job, they fill out a form for a background check. And then when doing that background check, employers, the government, and everybody finds out about their offenses. And a lot of times people discriminate against those who have either a particular criminal history or criminal history period. So the discussion that I've had with another content creator was the idea of sealing court records after someone does a first-time offense to help them get back on their feet. If they commit a crime after a probation period, then their record becomes unsealed. But first-time offense, the record sealed, they get a second chance. Yeah, I know. Before I changed my name about 1,000 times, my stance was this, in that offenders, they do pay their debt to society, even pay fines to the government, but they don't pay restitution to their victims. And I understand the game is rigged. It's not fair. Everybody, or not really everybody, but a lot of people cheat to win. Those that get caught, if they got the money for a lawyer, they got the name behind them, they get out of it. Broken poor people, as far as mindset, those who don't have a network, they get the criminal jacket. So it's not fair. But those that do commit crimes, you could say, well, if they commit this crime or that crime, their record should be sealed, but these crimes over here should not be. And when it boils down to it, whether it's a crime, whether it's a victim or a victimless crime, most of the time, offenders do not pay restitution to their victims.
Game over.
And that's the problem that I have with the first chances, the second chances, forgiving people being able to pay their debt to society and walk away. Most of the time, what got them incarcerated in the first place is they harmed someone, whether it be a business owner, whether it be individual, it could be even the government itself, stuff like tax evasion. People who commit crimes, they usually harm someone, and Their debt to society may be paying time and a citation or a fine, but what about their victims? Now, you might say, well, hey, Spade, what if they can't afford to pay restitution to their victims? And see, that's the problem. That's the reason why most people do not or are not sympathetic to those who commit crimes, because all of us, even the criminals, at one point or another, were victims. And we have not gotten revenge. We've had to pick up the pieces ourselves and move on. Let me give you an example. There's so many different examples that can be given. Let me give you an example. So one example is you have a woman, let's say Big Mama. Big Mama's at home. Boom, door gets kicked in. Door gets kicked in. People rush in with ski masks on, wave it around, the pow pow. They ask for her money. She gives it. They beat her up. They ransack her home, taking whatever else they want. Then they leave. Now, Big Mama, even though she may or may not have homeowners insurance, insurance companies only give you so much to replace your valuables. Insurance companies only give you so much to seek therapy, to be healed, to become a whole person. So basically, Big Mama, no matter what help she receives from the insurance company, family and friends, no matter what, Big Mama has to pick up the pieces herself and has to move on with her life. And let's say some people get arrested for the crime and they do time in jail or even prison. They do their time. Well, no one goes back to Big Mama, says, I'm sorry, and pays restitution to her, meaning giving her money to replace her items, publicly saying, I'm sorry, acknowledging what they did. People don't do that. Big Mama has to pick up the pieces herself. And while she's picking up the pieces and replacing stuff, she has to look over her shoulders. And there's a lot of people like that. People who went to school, they were bullied, women who have been violated, children who have been violated, men who have been violated. There's a whole lot of crimes that are committed where the criminals don't pay restitution to their victims. And now we're talking about a second chance. So I do believe that criminals should pay restitution to their victims, even though most of them or majority of them don't. But in regards to a second chance, the idea that once you become an adult, society is going to frown on those who game the system, get caught, that deters people from committing crimes. So I think if you have something in place where you commit a crime one time, you get a second chance, it's equivalent to people who are underage commit crimes and their record gets sealed when they're no longer a juvenile. It's a slippery slope to me. I do believe that people can be rehabilitated. If we're going to, let's say, petition the government for a politician or petition to the government or the court system for people who've committed a crime to have their record sealed and be given second chances, I will say that their second chance should be on the contingency, their record being sealed. So that way, if someone does a background check, that stuff doesn't pop up. Their second chance should be contingent on them agreeing to pay restitution to their victim, monetary or something equivalent. Then I would sign off on getting a second chance. Because most of the time, you need to know what people have done in the past. Because if you don't know what people have done in the past, then they are more skilled at getting away with it. And they are going to keep doing what they've been doing over and over again. And this time not getting caught the second time.
Killing spree, killing frenzy.
People will be on that because you got to also understand that people go to jail and go to prison and they get better at what they do as a criminal. And they don't get caught a second time. And so giving them a second chance is really dicey. If people pay restitution to their victims, I'd be all for it.